I think the main emphasis for me when towards serving came after I went to Haiti, and that was 1986, and that really opened my eyes. Happened so spontaneously. It was Hank Core was downstairs in the fellowship hall, and he said something. I'm going to take a group to Haiti, and I says, I'm going. It was very little thought.
I feel really passionate about a lot of things. I guess it's not so much in terms of like service as it is in terms of, um, I mean, I suppose you could call it all service, but I feel a passion in my heart for creating beauty and for righting wrong. In need, the same way that I think most people do. We have the understanding and then the choice. Do you want to help right that wrong? Can you make the time for it? And it's also the way that God created us, and I think through Jesus' sacrifice for us on the cross, we are tied together as a family.
Well, I try to do a variety of things because I enjoy a variety of things. And of course, the two main avenues are the church and, of course, my Kiwanis Club. Uh, ring the bell for Salvation Army, we do the angel tree, buy toys for the angel tree. One of the things I really enjoy is reading to preschool kids a couple of times a month over at the Youth Enrichment Services. I serve on the Lunch is Served board, and then I've, of course, done the project there many times. I serve on the Tree of Life board, and that's been probably one of the most challenging experiences. It's just a variety of different things, serving the banquet, and some things are, Kids Against Hunger, just did that last week. And of course, teaching. I think it boils down to where I like to do things if I can learn from them.
And so there's things that look like service when really it acts like this service acts as a mechanism to make you feel better or to fill a need in your own life or to make you look like you're a charitable person. And then there's service that at its very core just longs to serve God and to create beauty in the world, whether or not other people recognize you. So
If I want to be a disciple of Christ, for me, I need to do that. That's one of the things I need to do as part of being a disciple of Christ. Doesn't mean everybody else has to, but that's for me. And the second thing is, I'm not a woodworker. I don't fish. I play a little golf and those kind of things. And so I look at service as being a hobby of mine, really. It's just what I do. And partially it's because I can continue using the abilities I have, the skills I have, and use them, and it gives me a feeling of worth, too. It gives me a purpose.
I think if you're trying to dig deeper and understand how to develop a heart that wants to serve other people, then that first has to come from a self-examination. You have to be able to look at yourself and ask, where does my value come from? Where does other people's value come from? And where does God factor into all of that? And once you ask those questions, I think that God will start. I mean, and also through prayer and asking God, if you want to understand this, like, show me how I can make the world that you created more beautiful. I think that.
You can definitely serve while you're working, right at the place of work. And I feel I did that. But definitely, since I retired, it's opened up many more doors and opportunities for me because I don't have other obligations that I used to have. I don't have to worry so much about how I can fit it in. It just becomes part of what I do now.
I try not to keep any sort of, record of the things that I've done because it's not about that. It's just about small things with great love and recognizing it's all about this exchange between people. that work in the grocery store or the omelet line at school. There's this wonderful woman that works at Augie and the cafeteria named Peg, and her job is so simple, but she's so loving and kind, you know. And
I can do that. You hope you make a difference, but also I think making the difference is not just you by yourself, it's a collective effort. I'm thinking of the projects I'm involved in, and most of the time it's not me alone, it's with others, and so collectively we can make a difference. I can answer that. Again, I walk into these kids to read them. These are 3 and 4-year-old kids, and you walk in and they say, "Hey, our reading buddy is here. Come on, everybody." Well, to me, that just tells me, hey, we're making a difference to those kids. Well, I think it has provided me with a greater appreciation of others and of the situation they're in, and has made me less judgmental. It's easy to start out in service and be judgmental about, well, gee, they're doing this, they have that, why am I here serving them? But we don't know the background, we don't know their circumstances. And when I sit back and I look at it, I find that, hey, God put me there, and He must have a reason for it. Why am I here to judge? I cannot judge that circumstance. And so
oh, always positively, and sometimes negatively too, because I think when you have a really deep desire for good, it can be consuming to the point where you develop this idea that you can fix everything, which is not true. I mean, we are not God. We are God's children, you know.
And sometimes there is a danger of people being maybe a little bit disillusioned because of the outcomes. Sometimes I know when I leave Tree of Life, every time I go, my head says, saying, now what can we do differently? How can we change it? We just can't seem to make a real change.
Yeah, and that's the point where you have to step back and check yourself and say, I am not God, and I need to recognize my limitations. So, yeah, I mean, in my life, that's been a difficult thing. It's been a give and take, where I've seen just disparity and frustration and hurt that I know I can't fix. And yeah, so it's a sacrifice. I think the same way when you're apathetic, you miss out on beauty, and when you're deeply passionate, you become exhausted. So, yeah, you have to rely on God to keep you balanced. Question. I'm actually taking a class right now. I'm studying atheism, and the class is called, our coursework right now, the title of the section is called Atheism for Lent. And we're discussing what the values are of looking at things from other people's perspectives, people that are humanists and materialists and subscribe to other ways of thinking besides Christianity. And I absolutely respect people that just desire to create more wholeness and goodness. But I really believe, Christianity notwithstanding, whatever religion looks like, that God and who He is the source of wholeness and goodness. And so
I would hope that there is a difference between somebody with a deep faith versus someone who's not. Some way, somehow, that may come through, that love, the service is done for different motivation underneath, to show the love of Christ.
it's a hard question, though, because I think that it's different for everybody. Striving for awareness of world issues is always important. Read the newspaper, listen to music you haven't listened to before. Talk to people that you normally don't talk to. Just gaining that understanding, I think. You'll recognize needs that you maybe have been around your whole life that you never felt that you could affect or were really important. So have time to step outside your own community or your own perspective. And that doesn't necessarily mean traveling far away. But sometimes to understand the way you're living and the way that what you're prioritizing, you need to step back from it. Because to some people, I mean, I have friends who traveling to another country has been a life-changing experience, and they've been like, wow, I cannot believe my obsession with materialism and how how ridiculous it is that I am upset because I can't buy this new car and that sort of thing. Those small examples, and that's really important. And sometimes it means spending time with relatives or family that you haven't talked to in a while, and just, I don't know specifically, but it was the effort of the whole church, the church not as a building, but as a body of people, recognizing the need to take care of each other and just taking on that responsibility with the understanding that we're family. Not specifically me doing something for other people, but it's like the body of Christ coming alive, you know, like how we talk about, I think that verse in Acts 2, when he's talking about, or we're talking about the beginning of the church and just this understanding of how everyone got together every day and they shared everything they had and they gave to the poor and they shared meals and they studied the word and they just spent time together, and it was like, this is what we're called to be, you know. And I think that the understanding of this is my real life and this is service, the boundary just disappears when we commit to really loving each other that way. It's just who you are. So.
Well, I think it has to be deliberate. I mean, you have to really think about it and want to. And then you have to look and say, now where can I do that in my vocation or in my job, wherever I'm at, or with the people I interact with. Service sometimes can be very simple. It can be sitting at a coffee table, and that service can happen. It doesn't have to be where you have to pack up a bunch of things and go somewhere to do it. It can be right there on coffee break or something of that nature. I think it's recognizing it and then be willing to take the opportunity. Opportunity was, it's easier for me to show than to say. I guess if you know what I'm saying, it's not easy for me to verbalize things, but it's a lot easier for me to show and do and be an example. Do it. Take the risk. There is a risk involved. There definitely is. Sometimes it's a risk that affects your, like I said, your prejudices, your ideas, your biases, and you might find out that you may have a different or a wrong or an incorrect viewpoint about something, and that might be challenged, which is okay, because that's part of learning. But I think I'd just say take the risk, and you will find that if you do it in a non-judgmental way, that you will be blessed over again so many times that you can't even count it. It's amazing. These young folks going on mission trips, I think is fantastic. I was 46 years old until I went on my first mission trip, and that was Haiti. And so, you know, it's like you just got to take the step, and then I think it begins to grow, and it's a process, and they're helping, because I think it was in Matthew 5, Jesus said, you know, even the unbelievers do this, and he expects the believers to go further. And so I think that always has been a motivator for me. And just like that story about the little boy on the beach throwing the starfish back. You know, you can't throw them all back. He says, how can you make a difference? And he says, I made a difference for that one. And that's the attitude you have to have.